All right, welcome to the Successful and Single podcast. My name is Jae1. I am Director of Hip Hop for Pandora, Program Director for SiriusXM Pandora Now. I'm educated, I'm a homeowner, I have good credit, no kids, and I am single. And that's what we're here to discuss, why so many men and women like myself are single out there. And there's really nothing wrong with being single. We're not bitter about it. We just having conversations about it so we can get a better understanding of what's going on and help somebody else in the process. Because oftentimes when you see somebody else going through something and you can relate, you can kind of see yourself in it. So again, that's what we're here to talk about, which brings me to my guest. You know, we've had limited interaction, but we've ran in the same circles, both doing radio and follow each other on IG. I've always had a lot of respect for you, but I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. So Jae Nash here, radio personality, transitioning, pivoting careers right now. So yeah, single and in Atlanta is very hard to date. And then too, you know, there's always like some kind of like extra background for that. But for the most part, I am a digital marketer. I just received my certification during the pandemic.
Ooh, congratulations.
I know.
Congratulations. That's
with
big
UGA,
right there.
yes, as a digital marketer. So much information is out there. So just kind of exploring a lot of different other things now that I have the time. But I'm a mom. I have a 15-year-old.
Oh, wow.
She's
Teenager.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. That's a whole nother conversation. Standout track star. So I'm excited about, you know, what the future holds for her. But yeah, you know, single is a whole nother story. So.
Okay. So the question that I hate to get asked, but I always have to ask it for the purpose of this podcast is, why are you single?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's me. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why for so long, I was so invested in my career that I just really never really settled down. I've dated,
right.
But in terms of just kind of like being exclusive, that's something that I just never really kind of wanted to pursue. You know, in my industry, it's so crazy because as women in the industry, once you're in a relationship and it's out there, honestly, it's crazy because you like, you know, you lose most of your male followers. But it's not necessarily that. You know, it's about finding somebody who is equally yoked, somebody who understands the grind, you know, somebody who understands what it is that you're going through every day as a woman. So there's a lot of things that I can pinpoint, but I have to also, you know, take accountability myself because, you know, I have to take accountability because I definitely had several opportunities to settle down and I tried it. It's just, you know, like I said, you have to be compatible. And to me, that's really, really important.
So when was your last relationship?
My last, well, he don't count. He don't count.
Why doesn't he count?
I mean, well, you know, listen, I'm not going to do him like that. My last relationship was maybe for like a year and a few months or so. It was with a pretty decent guy.
Okay.
He was an awesome guy for the most part, but I think we weren't compatible. And then when there's children in play a factor into your relationship, that's something that's really important for me as a single woman, and I'm a widow. So that's something that's important. To make sure that, you know, my daughter also, you know, feels a sense, because she's never met a guy before, ever.
So she hasn't met any of
she met that person.
She met that one person.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she's never met any guys that I've ever dated throughout her 15 years besides that one person. And I was strategic about that.
Sure.
I grew up in a household. I have it's 5 siblings. I'm the middle child of 5, and you know, growing up in, you know, I'm an 80s baby. So when you're in the 90s, you kind of like, I saw mama doing a whole lot of stuff. So I was like really strategic about making sure that my daughter didn't meet men that I felt like, you know, maybe this is just, you know, a friendship type thing. So she has yet to meet anyone else. But, you know, back to him, it was just, you know, I didn't want to be involved in a relationship where I had to compete against your kids, your ex-wife. And it was just a whole lot of that. And that was just like, ugh, okay, I'm done. Deuces. Deuces.
We're going to touch on that in a little bit. Being in the industry, we've both worked radio and been in the entertainment industry. It could be very challenging, obviously. Schedules, people not understanding what we do, people being insecure. So I always like to ask this question: what is your preference as far as dating, do you prefer to date people inside the industry or somebody that is not affiliated with our industry?
Well, I mean, I'm older now, so I probably should have considered dating someone in the industry. And I say that because they get it. They understand the grind. They understand the long hours. They understand what it is that you're doing, and they appreciate that with you because they're doing the same thing, right? Everybody's busy in a sense. But for so long, and it's so crazy because now that I'm kind of like pivoting careers, I realized that that's something that I possibly could have pursued. I did have a few options, but I never really pursued any guys in the industry at all. I never wanted to date. First of all, I didn't want to date a rapper.
Okay.
I didn't want to date any guys that I worked with. Of course, it's like somewhat equal. You can't just date in a workplace. That creates tension, and then just meeting men that are within the same industry yet doing something different. I just never really gave it a shot. It was something that I just, honestly kind of like put behind. Everybody was kind of like friend zoned, and I regret it because I'm kind of like dealing with it now. Like, dang, like, there was some really good guys that, I actually saw, and that possibly like we created a conversation, but I kind of like immediately friend zoned them. So
why did you do that? Because I always wanted to understand why women put us in the friend zone, because it sucks, to be honest.
Well, guys put women in the friend zone. They do.
Do they really?
I think it's a different friend zone, but yes, they do.
Yeah, it's a very different friend zone, because a guy's friend zone is like, oh, it could happen if like circumstances change, or maybe when I get single, or one night I might get lucky or whatever.
Right.
But when y'all put us in the friend zone, it's a friend zone for real.
Yeah.
Yes.
Immediately. I think every woman has their reason. I think it's just different across the board for each particular female that's involved. Like I said, for me, it was just so gun-ho on, being a mother and a single mother, and then, cultivating a relationship with the guy that was in that same industry. To me, it was like, hey, I was purposeful. I wanted to really just pursue this and become successful, and just be that driving force for like having that name publicly, right? And so like I said, I ran across some really good guys, but it was just like, oh, well, no, because I didn't want people in my business,
Yeah.
And that's important. You have to really consider that as women, just men or people, the public perception of relationships. And then, you see it now, whereas back then it probably would have been a lot better. But now it's like, I don't really get why men want to hide their relationships if you're in love. It's like, why don't you want to, your beautiful girlfriend, she could be, a good support system for you.
Yeah.
And yet you so worried about everybody else that you don't even want to show your woman off. That's kind of crazy.
I think it's a double-edged sword, though, especially in the age that we live at, because you talked about it earlier. If you post your man on social media, you're going to lose a good amount of your male followers. So I think for guys in the entertainment industry that their followers are important, or it helps their career and stuff, you start posting your women, it could go left real quick.
Wow.
Either we lose followers, or people come out the woodworks to try to destroy the relationship, either by like.
But why do we care?
I don't know.
Like, why do you care? If you don't mind, I know this is like your show.
Yeah.
But
listen, this is dialogue. So I did date somebody that was in the industry and stuff, and I told her that I didn't want to post her, but it was more so for her protection. I'm not like BSing or anything like that, because given the state of our careers and stuff like that, and levels of our careers, I had already transitioned into more of an executive role. So like, to me, losing followers and all that kind of stuff, it didn't really matter to me. I'm not going to say what she does because it might give it away.
Oh, wow. Tell us.
No. We don't name names, and we can't say that. But she got a lot of her business off of bookings and stuff. And it would be a lot of males who were booking her. Yeah. Because she was very pretty, very attractive. And, guys, they even though they don't they know 90% of the time they don't have a shot, that 10% is going to motivate them to say,
Of course.
well, maybe if I book her for this gig, or maybe if I give her a little extra tip on this one, or overpay her, or expose her to this crowd, I might have a chance.
Oh yeah, I get it. Sound like me.
Right. Exactly. So I didn't want to mess up her business in that aspect. So that's why I was saying we shouldn't really post our stuff. And then at the same time, we weren't even dating for that long. We hadn't been together that long. So I didn't want to just put ourselves out there and then something bad happened, which it actually did. We ended up breaking up like after a couple of months, but we don't put each other out there like, oh, we're and then you gotta like erase everybody off the page and all that.
Right? You gotta archive the post.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's when you. So I do think there should be a set amount of time. Like give yourself at least honestly a good year with somebody to see if there is, a sense of like let it grow organically and without putting people in your business early on. So if you've been dating for a few months or so,
I agree with that. Yes.
You're right. If you got to really, to me, be in a really solid, good relationship, and that takes time to cultivate over. Some people would take a few months, some people would take a year, but so I get it, and I respect you for not messing up her money, because honestly, I get booked, and that was most of my booking was from the guys.
Exactly.
Most of my bookings came from those guys, and it just be like, oh, you about time I get there and they pay my money. Oh, you dating somebody? Oh yeah, I got this. I have a boyfriend. So I've always had an imaginary boyfriend.
You got the money in hand.
I
but
got
if
my money,
they had seen that on your Instagram, I don't know.
No, I don't think it probably would have worked out. No, seriously, I don't think it probably would have worked out like that. I think,
and that's really a shame, though. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that, but that's the reality of the situation.
That sucks for women in our industry, and that's not just radio personalities. That's females who are singers, rappers, whoever the case may be. If you really go back and look at some of the relationships, most of those relationships with women have been with their managers, right? Jill Scott is one, who
Wendy
dated
Williams.
Yeah, Wendy Williams. So when you think about the women, most of the time we are dating the men in the industry because they get it, they understand us, and you think, hey, this could work out, and then all of a sudden things just come crashing down.
It's like I go back and forth with that, because yes, I feel like a woman in the industry does get it. They get the lifestyle and what we have to go through and stuff, but at the same time, if it goes wrong, this industry is small, and you got to run into that person. You might have to work with that person, and depending on how you guys parted ways, it could be an awkward situation.
It could be a very awkward situation.
And you don't know if the person is petty. You don't know if they're going to put your business out there in the streets and stuff like that. People are just capable of anything. But at the same time, like you said, dating somebody outside the industry, they don't necessarily understand that they can be insecure and all that type of stuff.
It's just, you just never really know. I think that you just really never know what the future may hold with anybody. So you just kind of like, for me personally, I just kind of, tread lightly in terms of my dealings with people. And then, I come from a very broken place, just dealing with a very traumatic death, with my late husband. And so for me, just period, it was, this is my daughter's dad. And I want to be able to respect him enough because of who he is and what he stood for. But not just that, because I have a daughter that, I want her to understand the value of, of love and relationship. And so it was about, back in the day when if you were a single parent mom, you just like, hey, you got to figure it out, as you go. For me, it was the same. And so I just had a huge commitment issue after experiencing such a, a really a death, something that really like it was just abrupt. So I believe too, that's my accountability that I'm going to take in terms of being single, is that's something that it took a lot of healing. It took and it just didn't happen overnight. I mean, it's been roughly 14 years, but at the same time, it's been a good 14 years of healing through that, because mind you, again, I have a daughter by this man, so I had to take a lot into consideration, and just being young and try to figure it all out at the same time.
How long after your late husband's death did you decide that you were going to start going back out there and being open to like at least talking to people, not a committed relationship, but at least going out on dates and getting to know people?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it was going back to what was comfortable, revisiting past relationships prior or something like that. But I did this like crazy reality show, right? Oh my gosh, it was like the worst, right? There was a show called VH1 Tough Love, co-ed, and that was their first year of being co-ed. And it was a matchmaking show. It was like 2012, 2013. And the guy just kept telling me like, yo, like, first of all, he's not your husband. You have to say late husband. I'm thinking like, I'm black. That's my husband. Anybody saying late?
That's
when I didn't understand the concept of saying late husband, at the time. But when I ended up in the hot seat, he really brought a lot of things to light for me in terms of, and this is like 2012 at the time. So this had been like, I want to say about 6 years. Since, and I had crazy part about it, I was still wearing my wedding ring and everything, and then unbeknownst to me, like it just didn't register because I think that different race were raised differently in terms of how to deal with death, right?
Speak on that.
So, coming from a background in being a black female and growing up in a single parent household,
right?
For a very long time until my mom ended up marrying her husband, which is my little sister and brother's dad. It was, we didn't know how to deal with death. It was never a conversation in a household. It was something that I never really experienced. So when I lost my late husband at 25, see, I'm correcting myself. When I lost my late husband at 25, it was, in my head, I knew that he was gone, but I still was trying to have that closure or find closure for like chasing closure for a very long time. But then too, I was chasing a career. So that focus kind of like shifted, and I never just kind of like stopped and grieved, right? For those 6 years, I never really took the time to just stop and just grieve through that experience. And once I got a little older, as I started getting older, like I said, I lost Damien at 25. 6 years past that, I'm in my early 30s and still didn't know. Now mid 30s, it's like, okay, wait, hold on for a second. Okay, Jay, you got to get it together here. What's happening. So, like I said, it's never a topic of conversation. For so long, it's been a taboo topic about death in the black community, in the black household. And I believe that it's very important for us to have this conversation because, you got to understand that, to be birthed in this world, eventually you're going to be gone. Right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't want to talk about it or think about death in that because it's so negative, but it's the truth. Yeah. It's going to happen. Right. And so, it's about how you deal with it. And to me, I had to just learn to be absent from the bodies, to be present with the Lord. Right. And so, at that
word right
yeah,
there.
right. So at that moment, it was like, yo, like live,
Yeah.
And I started living life to the fullest when I figured it out within the last, this last 6 years of my life was like, yo, you just have to live life because
That's
you
right.
just never know. So now my perspective is different. And I wish I would have known, what I know now then. But, again, like I said, just being young and just trying to figure it out, you just don't know.
Hindsight is 20/20, but
yeah, tell me about it.
You figure it out when you're supposed to figure it out.
Yeah.
And
much better person too, right?
Yeah.
Because that healing is crazy.
That healing is crazy, and you need to be whole and healed before you bring somebody else in the picture.
Tell me about it. You think about the trauma. You think about what people experience. And I think women just hold a lot of weight, just in general. I think women carry a lot of baggage. A lot of weight on them, and I believe it's just important for us to just release that. You have to forgive yourself, you have to forgive others, and you just have to learn how to love yourself first. And I think that was something that I needed to learn. It's like, I can't expect for somebody to love me when, I'm questioning myself, or there's really, not necessarily just the self-love, because, that you just got to love yourself, but that self-worth and that self-love, you begin to mold yourself into that and understand and appreciate that more once you take time to heal. I can't be one of these little young girls and go from relationship to relationship. I don't know how they do it.
I feel you on that.
I don't know how they do it. I'm like, goodness,
I feel you on that. I mean, I'm at the point now. It's really hard for me even to just date multiple people. Not even like relationship.
Just dating.
Just
Tell
dating.
me about it.
as far as dating 2 or 3 people at the same time, getting to know 2 or 3 people, I'm like, my brain don't work like that no more.
Tell me about it.
And my schedule don't work like that no more. So
And that could be pretty expensive for guys.
I was just having a conversation with somebody else about that. Like, as a single guy who believes in still courting a woman and doing things the traditional way and paying for dinners and stuff like that. That stuff adds up. You dating about 3 people trying to get it. No. We not doing that. So I've had to learn, like, we're going to do it one at a time and see what happens. But how long do you think you should date a person or court a person before you guys get into some sort of exclusive relationship? Because that's another thing I kind of go back and forth with too.
Yeah. I listen, I think for every person it's different. You know, everybody takes a different route. You know, I'm a hopeless romantic. So I don't really, honestly, I don't think it's going to take me a year or 2 to figure out if I want to be with somebody. I can kind of develop if this person is right for me within, you know, a couple months of knowing like, okay, I see something there, you know, I see the compatibility, which that is so important. And then 2, you know, what do I offer, or what can I offer in this man's life, and what I feel like could be a mutual benefit for the both of us, right?
Sure. To
make this thing work out. And so, you know, it could be a few months for some people, a few years, you know, it just kind of just depends. But I mean, a good 3 months, I kind of have a general idea. 6 months in, I'm like, okay, he's the one. So I think as you get older, you kind of look at things differently. And then, you know, you kind of wean out like, okay, what you can deal with, what you can't deal with. And if there's a true love there, you just kind of like, you know, figure it out and accept that person truly for who they are. You can't change anybody, especially, you know, when you're up in age. I'm not saying I'm old or anything, but I'm older.
Right. No. But that's real.
Wiser.
You don't want to just keep going through the cycle of, okay, you date somebody, get to know them, then something happens and you're on to the next one. And
I can't do it.
to the next one. And then you're on to the next one.
I can't do it.
I definitely feel you, because I've just seen it happen so many different ways where people have been together for a very long time. Like they dated through college or high school. They're together for like 5 years. They get married. 2 years later, they say the person switched up on me. They're changed on me. And now they're divorced and stuff. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, but I thought you knew that person. You've been with them
people have representatives. You'll be surprised.
Yeah, but that's a long time to be a representative.
I agree. And then at that point, like, you knew. Don't just try to just, you know, throw him under the bus. So you knew that this person had a representative from the and you tried to. Some people just really force. I'm at a place in my life now where I don't want to force anything.
Makes sense.
I don't want to force careers. I don't want to force relationships. That's friendships. I don't want to force anything. If it doesn't fit, I'm not trying to make it fit. I'm not trying to go, you know, down here and, you know, like I have to do and alterate my clothes with somebody, because their personality to me and your character means a lot. You know, that character means a lot.
I think guys, they come to the revelation that we know. When we probably know, we know faster a lot of times than women.
I do agree with that.
It's just that when a guy says, oh, I'm not ready or anything like that, they still want to do other stuff on the side.
Oh, is that what that means?
That's what
that's Let me write that down.
I would say, you know, I'm not trying to throw my fellow brothers under the bus. I'd say 90% of the time. Some guys, it might be some other factors. Like I've talked to some other guys and they're just like, well, I don't feel like I'm financially ready to support somebody or to support a family. And guys go through that too, because we want to be able, we're natural providers. So we want to be able to like give our women the best and provide for the family and not struggle or be arguing over bills or having to rely on our woman to take care of everything.
Yeah.
So I think that plays a factor, but most of the time guys know.
I do. I think men do a really good job, honestly, at picking their wives, honestly. Okay, now some things may happen later on that you just don't agree with. You get older, you evolve, you realize that that's not the person for you. But I do have to give it to men in terms of really, really their choice of who they feel, because people look at marriage, to me, is a partnership, and it's a business,
Sure.
right? It's a business. And if you've never really been married, it's kind of probably hard for you to understand. But think about it. When you're in love, you get married, you don't have, you pay money to get married, right? The crazy part about it is when you're divorcing, you're going through the court. It's a business, right?
Yeah.
So I think men do a somewhat of a fairly good job in picking their mates, whereas women, sometimes, we just, we're so emotional, and sometimes we just yearn for a certain kind of love, right? And that we don't really take the time to discern. And, it just looks good. It feels good. And, we just go in head first and not necessarily think about, hey, the longevity of this relationship. What does that mean to you? And not all men are do a really good job, but for the most part, business savvy men, right, do a fairly good job at picking out their partners in women. Whereas, like I said, sometimes women, we just kind of like, look at, there's so many different factors, whether it be the materialistic side of things, whether it be the financial side of things. And I believe all women want to be financially secured in a relationship.
Of course,
I think that's a natural thing for women to want to be naturally secure, but things are shifting for women now. They're starting to get these executive roles. They're starting to now it's like, oh, okay, we got a choice. We could choose. We get to choose now, and it's up to us. And so I think that too is a really good thing, and it's a good situation for any sister that's out there.
Do you find that challenging though, with the shift that's happening, which I think is great, and you have more women executives, women making more money and more leadership roles, but do you think sometimes that those type of women sometimes have to lower their standards as far as dating a man that might not have that same status or position or revenue stream or drive a fancy car and stuff? And I know some women, and they've spoken on this podcast about it, they say that it's tough because they're making all this money, they're doing all these things, and the guy that they're with isn't. And some guys are frankly intimidated.
They are very intimidated. Some men are very intimidated. Like I told you, my last relationship, that was one of the biggest things is, just being intimidated about the success, and then too, not necessarily respecting what it is that you do. So I honestly, women, it's so hard in so many different ways for us. And it's just so unfortunate because, you have the successful women who are highly educated and have, taken out all these student loans and got this executive amazing role and finally got into a place where she can be a provider of her household. And all she really wants is somebody to support her, really. I mean, just really a backbone, somebody to be able to support, whether, okay, you may not make the same amount of money, but at the end of the day, the support outweighs all of that. The love outweighs all of that, what you do and how you continue to support and provide in the way that you can. It's, I know it's the little things for men, but it's also when you deal with successful women, it's, what it is like, I look at Nicki Minaj and her dude now, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm happy that she's happy, right? I'm really happy that she had that she played a pivotal role in empowering a lot of, or being an icon as a hip hop, female artist.
Yeah.
And when I go back and I look at what she used to be and how she tried to find herself and maybe in that dating circle of what she thought was good for her. And then now, it's like, I just went back to a childhood friend,
That's real.
I just went to a childhood friend that, who respects me, who really knows me. And when you see him in pictures, he like just chilling,
He's
just straight chilling. So it's like, that's really all somebody really wants is just that love and that support. And that to me outweighs and supersedes if you don't make the same money or you don't bring in the same revenue I have.
Man, that's real.
Yeah.
That's real.